Hey yo, my name is Seti B, aka Said, and this is Said Talk Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today I'm just going to be answering some questions. Right, I had a few people that had asked questions regarding about like what I do and things like that outside of my full-time job. Um, and so people ask, how did I become an insurance agent, or how did I get into the financial industry? So for me, I was actually a client first, and so this was probably 6, 7 years ago as a client. And during this time, before we had got a life insurance policy, my wife and I, we were in some financial debt, right? So we were in a hole financially. We ended up taking out a loan just to try to help with bills and things like that. But little did I know, right? I did not understand how interest works. I had no clue how interest works. And the loan that we took out, they hit us with a high interest rate. So they charged us with an extremely high interest rate. And so it got to the point to where we ended up having to leave at the time our apartment that we were living in. So we left our apartment. We were behind on bills. I mean, credit card debt, excessive car notes, right? Behind on payments, bills, rent, everything. And it had got really bad. And it got to the point to where we had to move. And so I moved into my mom's house. And sometimes, man, it's just different. Uh, having your own family and then, still having to go to your mom's house. But I appreciate that though. Like I appreciate that the fact that she has a house for us to even go to, uh, you know. And so we ended up at her house, and at the time, like um, there were like a few families too, just kind of in the house. So like everybody's walking on eggshells, and you know, it was just a tough time, honestly. And so we're in this situation. So now we're in my mom's house, and for some reason, like we kept getting deeper and deeper into a hole. And a friend of ours was like, "Yo, you guys need any help? I offer these kind of services, blah blah blah." And initially, I was like, "No, like if you gonna help, I need cash on hand. Like I need money now." I didn't want to open up something and and spend more money. And so I was like, "Nah, I'm good." So we ended up like just getting deeper into a hole for some reason. It was weird because we no longer was paying rent. So I was like, how are we getting further and further deeper into this financial hole? But it was the interest. It was the loan that we took out. And so now finally I'm making payments, right? $500 a month or like $800 a month. I'm making payments to pay off the loan again. But because of the interest, so now watch this. It might have been like a year after, or maybe 8 months or so. And at the time, we only had Cedric, right? So we didn't have any other children. We just had one kid at the time. And I called the loan people and I was like, hey, I've been making all of my payments on time, yada, yada. It's been like 8 months. And I was like, how much have been knocked off of the loan that we owe? And it was like, well, you have maybe $130 going to the principal. And I said, okay, well, where's the rest going to? They said the rest of your $800 is being charged with the interest. That's going to the interest. And I was like, oh my goodness. This is the first time where I understood interest and I was on the other side of it. Like I wasn't the one earning the interest, I was paying the interest. And so when I realized that, I was like, wow, all of these payments that I'm paying off for this loan, it's not going anywhere. And so I'm getting deeper and deeper into this hole. And so um, all of a sudden, I'll say maybe a few months after that, Angel receives a phone call um, from her uncle on her dad's side. and I don't know his name, so I'm just gonna say Mike. All right. So Uncle Mike calls Angel. Was like, "Hey, how's it going? My name is Uncle Mike, and I'm your dad's brother, and I'm just calling to let you know that your auntie has passed away, which is my sister. And so keep in mind, Angel and her sisters, they really didn't know this side of the family, right? They didn't really know their dad's side of the family. So they're like, okay, sorry to hear that, but why are you telling us? And he goes, well, the reason why I'm calling is because our parents, which is Angel, her sister's grandparents, they had set up a trust. They had a trust fund set up, but it was in so much detail. And it said that if you don't have children, then this money will go to your nieces and nephews. That's crazy. And so, who's the niece and nephew, right? So they reached out to Angel and her sisters, letting them know that they're going to be receiving some money, okay? And so at this point, it's a blessing, right? So it's a blessing to receive these funds that have been set up many, many years ago, but also they have never met this side of the family. But the grandparents, they had this in place already, and they were saying, even if you don't have children, it's going to go to your nieces and nephews. And so that was very powerful to me personally. And I was like, wow, this is an eye opener. Like, we have nothing for our son right now. We have nothing for our son. And I was talking to Angel. I was like, we need to get something in place for our sons, just in case if something were to happen to us, we can definitely, help financially with, the lack thereof, with whether if it was my paycheck or her paycheck, right? So we called our friend back, and we was like, hey, you said you offering life insurance, right? And she was like, yeah, yeah, we're doing life insurance. So she came over to the house, she did her whole spiel, and we signed up for the life insurance policy. And so in my mind, I'm just like, this is just life insurance. Okay? Like when I die, then my son will receive these funds and he can use it however he likes, right? That's just what I thought. And so over time, right, with this insurance company, they were sending me every single month statements, right, of my policy. And this is what I used to do with the statements. I used to get the statements, throw it away. Statement, throw it away. I never opened them. And then maybe a year or so later, a year and a half, I was just, cleaning up. I was like, dang, I got heck of statements right now. This is wild. So I was like, let me just go ahead and open one of these statements. So I'll open a statement, and I'm just looking at all of the stuff here, and the fees, right, the cost of insurance, and I'm like, okay, blah blah blah. And then I'll go down, and I saw this one place, it said cash value, right? So I was like, cash value, like what the heck is cash value? And it looked like it was money that, like a bank account. It looked like I was looking at a bank account or something. That's the kind of statement it was. And so I called Nationwide. I said, hey, Nationwide, I got a question. So I open my statement, and I see this section where it says cash value. Can you explain that to me? The person on the phone goes, yeah, absolutely. Well, that cash value, in your index universal life, what it does is your index portion is linked to the stock market index, right? And so I wasn't getting it. I said, wait a minute. I said, but I have a life insurance policy. What do you mean stock market? Like I don't understand about the stock market stuff. And she goes, well, you have your life insurance, okay? But this kind of life insurance that you have is designed to accumulate wealth, accumulate cash. And I was like, I'm still not understanding. And so she broke it down. She says, okay, listen to this. Have you ever heard of a index market? I mean, of a index which is called S&P 500. I said, yeah, I've heard of that. A lot of people invest in that, right? Fortune 500 companies, all that kind of stuff. Why? What about it? She says, well, that is an index which is currently in the stock market. Your life insurance policy is actually linked to that index, which is in the market. And I say, okay, so what does that mean? She says, well, every year, if this index, right, your S&P is performing well, you're going to be credited a certain amount of interest to your policy. And I was like, I said, wait, so is this an investment? Like, I thought I just got a life insurance policy. And so I was starting to be blown away, like, because it sounded really amazing. She was saying every year that the S&P 500 does well, she's saying that my life insurance policy, because it's linked to the S&P, I'm actually going to be credited interest. And that's how my cash value inside of my life insurance policy grows. It's growing because I'm earning interest based off of the performance of the stock market. I'm going to say that again. My cash value inside of my life insurance policy, it's growing because I'm earning interest based off of the performance of the index market. Okay? And so that blew my mind just on strength of that conversation alone. And then obviously, right? So what's the next question I'm going to ask her? This is what everybody else is asked after this. Okay, well, do I have access to that money? Will I be penalized if I access the money? And since I am linked to the stock market, what happens when the stock market goes negative or loses money? So those are the questions that I've asked, and she literally broke down every question and answered it based off of these numbers that I'm going to give you guys, right? So you have the first question was, do I have access to the money? She said, yes, I would have access to that money, that cash value that's growing in my life insurance policy. And I say, well, at the point or at the time I do access the money out of my life insurance policy, will I be taxed and will I be penalized? The reason why I ask those two questions is because I have a 401k with my company, right? I have a 401k, and with the 401k, I tried to take money out before, and guess what? You can be penalized because you're before the age of 59 and a half. So you'll be penalized 10%, or you can be taxed, right? And so I was like, man, so I wanted to take this money out, and it was like, okay, well, you can definitely do a loan, right, where I'm paying it back and things like that. But there was only a certain amount that I was able to grab, and. And so that's the reason why I asked, and she said no. And then another thing, it just blew my mind because now, right, in my mind, I'm thinking, this sounds way too good to be true. That was my thought. I'll be honest. I was like, how is this possible? I'm not understanding this concept, right? And so she was just explaining how you have a 401k, you have a IRA, right, an individual retirement account, you have a SEP, you have a 403b. What she was explaining was that these are all retirement accounts. These are all investments. All of these retirement accounts, they have their own rules, right? According to the Internal Revenue Code, like 401k, those are numbers, right? In one letter. Guess what? That's a internal revenue code. So when you look up that tax code, it breaks down the rules of how it works. And then she goes, because this, as far as what you have, because this is a life insurance policy, When you take money out via loan, the loan is tax free. And then she says there is no penalty when I access that money via loan, right? And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So I had two more questions because every time she explained something, it brought me to another question. So I say, well, you mentioned a loan, okay? You said if I take a loan out, then I won't be taxed. So my first question I had for her was, do I have to pay this loan back? Because I want you guys to remember, previously, I took a loan out from a different company. Y'all remember that? And I didn't understand the interest as far as how it worked because I was paying so much in the interest, right? So previously, I took a loan out. So I was cautious this time. I'm like, no, she said loan. I'm not doing loans. And I asked, I said, hey, um, if I'm taking a loan out, doesn't that mean I have to pay it back? Now, this is crazy. So I want you guys to really pay attention to this. So this is going to, it might be really confusing right now, but I want you to try your best to understand this concept. She says, you have the option to pay back this loan. I said, option? What do you mean? She says, if you take out an alternative loan, right? An alternative loan, what's going to happen is this. Let's just say, for example, if you wanted to borrow $50,000 nationwide with the alternative loan, nationwide will loan you that 50,000 in your bank account. Okay? In your bank account. Because that's a lot of money, they say, man, this is some collateral, right? So what Nationwide does, Nationwide, they place a lien on your life insurance policy. So what that means is if I choose or if I so happen to not pay back this $50,000 to Nationwide, they will at a later time, right? When I die, they will deduct the amount that I owe from my death benefit. Oh my goodness. I'm going to say that again just really quick. I borrowed money from Nationwide. They put it into my bank. I can use it how I want to now because they gave it to me already, right? They loaned it to me. But their Nationwide is saying because they loaned me that money, and if I do not pay them back, they'll just deduct the amount from my death benefit when I die. That is so huge. This is why. Because my cash value that is inside of my life insurance policy, because I didn't actually deduct it from my life insurance and I received it from the company Nationwide, guess what? That 50,000 that's in my life insurance is actually still growing. Why is it growing? Because of the interest that we're earning from an index market. So it's still growing as if I never took the $50,000 out. That is incredible. I'm going to tell you what, though, if you still do not understand what I just explained, please, please, please contact me, leave a comment, leave a message. If you're on my social media right now, message me. Please, please, please contact me and I will show you exactly how it works. Okay, now moving on to my last question. So when I was asking, I was like, wow, this is really incredible. And I said, okay, let me ask this one other question. Uh, and I said, since we are linked, since my policy is connected to the stock market performance, what happens if the market crashes? Will I then lose my initial investment, my initial premium, and the gains that I've earned over the years? She says, you will not lose a penny. I said, how? How is that possible? She said, because Nationwide, we actually guarantee you a floor rate. So you have a cap rate and then you have a floor rate. So you have, let's just say you have 20 options, right? You have 20 investment options that you can choose from, but some of those options are capped, right? So you have a cap and you have a floor. So let's say one investment index option is capped at 14.75%. That's a real number, by the way. That's a high cap. Even though it's capped, that's a high cap. What does that mean for this to be capped? This is saying that if the S&P 500 does 20% that year, you're going to be credited 14.75%, right? But then other people, they say, well, why won't I just invest solely into the stock market instead of investing into a life insurance, which life insurance is not an investment. Okay, it's an insurance policy with these living benefits. And so some people say I can just invest and get the whole 20. The difference is Nationwide will guarantee that you will not lose when the market crashes or goes negative, right below zero. So they have a cap, but you also have certain investment options with no cap at all. So if the market is doing 20%, your life insurance policy will get 20%. That's cap. So you have a floor rate where Nationwide guarantee your floor rate. Your floor rate is 0%. What does that mean? That means that if the market now goes negative, which means any investments that you have in the market while it goes negative, you actually lose money from your investments. But Nationwide is saying that because your floor rate is 0%, you cannot go below zero. What does that mean? That means that you do not lose a penny. You keep your gains, so you lock in your gains. So if your initial premiums were here, but over the years you have earned gains on top of your premium, guess what? You lock in your gains. So anytime the market is negative, you just didn't earn that year. Once again, if the market is negative, you just didn't earn that year, but you also didn't lose because they're contractual writing. Everything I'm telling you is contractual writings, okay? This is in their contract that you have a guaranteed floor rate. So cap rate, floor rate. Some indexes are not capped, but you have some that are capped. But every index investment has a floor, which is 0%, and you can't lose. At that moment, I promise you, at that moment, I said, I need to be telling people about this. I do. I need to be telling every single person about this because this is unbelievable. Every person I talk to, they say, how come I haven't heard of this? Believe me, I haven't heard of it either. But this is the reason why you haven't heard of it. I'll just give you an answer to that question. It's because they're not teaching it in school. Where are you going to hear it from? They're not teaching it in your household. They're not teaching it in the churches. They're not well, we need to be teaching the gospel in the church, but they're not teaching these things. They're not teaching it. So where would you even hear this stuff from? Come on. So I say, if you have people out there who hasn't heard about this information, then I need to get in business so that I can share this information so that I can help people. I've always loved helping people. I enjoy helping people. But when I figured this out here, I knew that I can help so many people, but not just them. I can help their families, not just their families. I can help their generations to come. Come on, man. Where are you going to hear the info from? Listen, Nationwide has just started actually promoting the financial services part of it now, right? Because every time you hear the commercial, Nationwide is on your side. And then they be having a little guitar and stuff now and the music. But if you look at Peyton Manning, There was one commercial I saw. He was like, hey, people don't even know that Nationwide offer financial services as well. Maybe we should add that into your song. They're starting to now promote these things. And this is huge. And that's why I got in business. And this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because this can help so many people. So many people. And this helps me with my vision, and my dream is so big that I can't do this myself. I need other people to help build this dream and fulfill this dream that I have in this vision. And it's going to happen. It will. It will happen. And so, to answer the questions of those, asking how did I get into this industry as a life insurance agent? How did I become, offering financial services? This is how, because I saw it myself. And then people say, oh, too good to be true, right? That's because we're always used to losing. We're always used to losing. When we hear a great opportunity, what we do as humans, we like to go back to what we're comfortable with. We like to go back and to be like, I'm familiar with this plan. Even if I've lost thousands of dollars, I'm familiar with this investment. So I'm going to stick with the investment. That's ignorant. You don't want to do that. That is ignorant, and you would never grow financially. Yes, you can have investments and bubble and move things and trades around, but the idea is this: you want to be well diversified. If you have money in every financial vehicle, and then when the market crashes, in each vehicle you lose money, you're not diversified. You want to make sure that you have money in a place where it's protected. You know why it's protected? Because it's inside of a cash value life insurance policy. A cash value life insurance policy is not an investment. It's not. A 401k, that's an investment. You can lose money in an investment. So if you're listening to this, if I've lost people, hopefully I'll catch you in person. But if you're still watching this right now, I challenge you, right? Because everybody knows about the IRS. Even the IRS have approved this, okay? I'm going to give you 3 IRS codes, 3 internal revenue codes. These are all tax codes, right? The first one is 7702. 7702. Please look that up right now. Look up that tax code. This is approved by the IRS. Look up 72 in the letter E. 72 in the letter E. And the last tax code is 101 in the letter A. Once again, 101 in the letter A. I promise you, you look this up. These codes are only associated to cash value life insurance. It's going to tell you about how you're able to access this money, this cash value tax free. It's going to tell you about how the money that's growing inside of your policy is growing tax free. And it's also going to tell you about if you pass away, right? You have a premature death. That death benefit is going to transfer over to the beneficiary tax free. With those tax approved tax codes, it is only associated to a cash value life insurance policy. I love what I do. That's how I got into business. And I hope you can become into business, right? Because everyone won't believe me, but they'll believe you. Once you believe it, right? The services, and I'm talking about with the internal revenue codes, once you believe that and understand how it works, people will believe you. We have to get this information out. We have to. Almost everyone I've talked to, man, that's crazy. How come I've never heard about this? Once again, where are you going to hear it from? 1, you don't read. 2, they're not teaching it in schools. Come on. Where else you going to hear it from? They're going to hear it from you once you believe it. And so the time is now, because 1, you're not promised tomorrow. 2, to be able to have, like, I can assure you and guarantee that this is one of the best financial services that you can have. When you compare it next to something else, you can't lose. And then it's contractual writing. I can show you all of the proof. People say, oh, they have fees associated to it. Oh, there's a cost associated to it. You have fees in all of your investment plans right now with your company. You have management fees. You have all sorts of fees in your investment companies right now. So what are you talking about? That's just a way to kind of get away from the conversation. Like, oh, no, I don't understand that fees, this, and that. There's two things you need to understand about an index universal life. The first one is that it has to be structured properly. What I mean is your life insurance policy has to be structured properly in a way to where when you fund it, you get the most out of this index universal life. That's one. It has to be structured properly. Two, is that it has to be funded properly. Everyone always asks, well, how much do I need to fund it? How much do I need to do this? Every person is different because it's based off of your own financial goals. Everyone has different financial goals. So everyone's funds will be different going to an index universal life. Structured properly and funded properly in order to receive the best benefits from an index universal life. My name is Seti B, aka Said. This is Said Talk Podcast, and this is how I became a life insurance agent. This is the reason why I enjoy and I have a passion of offering these financial services. Thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, if you have any questions, if there's anything that I've said and you're still confused, please reach out to me. I will get back to you and we can literally go over everything at your pace. I'm out, baby.